Hi, George here, and today I'll be showing you how to use Camera Raw inside of Photoshop Elements 2025. Now, the first thing you need to know about Photoshop Elements is that it doesn't edit Camera Raw files directly. It edits them in a different editor, which floats on top of your regular Photoshop Elements. I'll show you that in just a second, but first let's make sure that you have Camera Raw installed. Go up here to Help, and come down to Install Camera Raw. Now, I've already done this. For whatever reason, it doesn't show you that it's been done, but if you haven't done this yet, click on that and install Camera Raw. This also will guarantee that you have the most current version inside of your copy of Photoshop Elements 2025. Once you have that done, you can then open up your file in Camera Raw. You do that by going up here to the File menu, and right here, Open in Camera Raw. Now, even if you just do Open, it's still going to be opening it up in Camera Raw. So there's no way around this for a Camera Raw file. So click on that, and I have one right here that we'll be using. This is an ARW file, which again is a Camera Raw file. Choose Open, and there we go. And you can see here, it's inside of a different editor sitting on top of the regular Photoshop Elements editor. It's not in Photoshop Elements, it's in the Camera Raw editor right here. At this time, it's Camera Raw 17. Let's take a look around this, a few things that you should know. Down here, bottom right, where it says Open, this is going to open this image up over in Photoshop Elements. But once it does that, it's going to automatically be converted into a Photoshop Elements file. It will no longer be a Camera Raw file. So that will limit some of your editing abilities because you won't have the full range in there to work with. Also, look right down here in the bottom middle, it says depth 8 bits per channel. This is the default for Photoshop Elements. You can only work in 8 bits per channel in the Photoshop Elements editor, but you can work at a higher bit level here inside of Camera Raw. So just click on that 16 bits per channel to get the most out of this. You'll lose that when it goes over into Elements, but keep it as long as you can while you're doing your editing inside of here. Now, if you want to save this out in a file format that can be saved and worked on with other programs, then you may want to go up here where this little down arrow is, click on this. This will then convert the file over into a DNG file, which is your digital negative file. And it's not a bad idea. I'll frequently do this anyway, and then just edit the DNG file instead of the original Camera Raw file. That just protects the Camera Raw file so that everything is okay. The DNG will give you all the same capabilities as your Camera Raw. It's just a savable file format. But for this video, we'll just stick here with this Camera Raw because it's already open. To look at the top, here's the file name, and here's the camera that this was taken with. Over here, right-hand side, we have several things. Right now, we're at the top button here. This is your edit mode. And in the edit mode, you have an auto function here for auto adjustment and also black and white. The auto adjustment is frequently not too bad. And if you float over this for just a minute, you'll see this little pop-up window giving you a bit more information about that. Above that, we have the histogram. This shows you all of the values in your image right now. As you can see, everything is over here on the left-hand side in the black area. Pretty obvious. These little markers up here, this shows you your shadow clipping, and this shows the highlight clipping. This is where all of your values are bunched together at the far shadow end, and that's all right down there. We want to remove that as much as possible, but you still have a little bit of that in there, just a touch. That's your pure black. This is your pure white. A bit of that showing up in here, a little bit of pure white in there. So the range is very wide, and that's not unusual in a Camera Raw image. They have a very wide range. But we'll adjust all those things. Below that, we have just some basic information here about the original image. And below that, we have two auto settings, either an auto adjustment setting. Not bad, it's lighter. We've lost all of our blacks in there, so it's not really a good adjustment, but it's not too bad. I'll do Control Z to back out of that. Or we have a black and white. There's an auto black and white. Again, Control Z, I'll stick with color. Down below that, we have our Adobe profiles in here, color, landscape, portrait, standard, vivid, and some artistic ones in here. This browse takes you over into the profiles section. And that's occasionally nice if you're trying to color balance your image. I'll normally do this later. I'll first start to get the values correct. Then I may come back and play around with the profiles. You'll find those profiles also right here, so the button right here. This is the Browse Profile button. And here you can see there's the Adobe Color, Monochrome, Landscape, Neutral. If you scroll over these, just kind of hover over that, you'll see the difference there in the main image. So it gives you a real easy way to come in and preview all of that. Here's some camera matching profiles. Again, just hover over, and you can see how those work. And there are quite a few more of these in here: adaptive, artistic, black and white, modern, and vintage. But for now, let's stick with our basic editing. Click on the back button, and we'll come down here to basic. This is all of your standard adjustments in here. Now, temperature and tint, the names here may be a little bit misleading. Temperature just changes your color balance from your blue to your yellows. So it's not really a temperature thing, but it's really blues to yellows. tint is greens to magenta. So you're just changing your color balance in here. I would personally rename these blue to yellow and green to magenta, but they've always been called temperature and tint. I'm not going to argue with them about that. You can take the slider control here and then slide back and forth like that, and you can adjust your temperature in here, which again is your blue to yellow, and you can adjust the tint in here, which again is your green to magenta. You can always use the Control Z keyboard shortcut to back those up. Or if you go up here to the three dots, click on that, and you can reset to default or reset to how it was set when the file was open. I'll click to reset to default, and there we are, back to our default settings. Normally though, I'll leave this stuff alone, and I'll come down here and do the exposure first. I want to be able to see what I'm doing in here, and that's going to be in all of your exposures. And here you basically have three sections: exposure and contrast, highlights and shadows, and your blacks and whites. I'll start off with the exposure, lighten that up a little bit. That's pretty good. Now notice as I lighten this up, I'm seeing more down here, so I'm taking away some of the blacks by increasing the exposure, going more towards the white, but I'm really bringing in a lot more whites up here. So this is overexposed, but this is getting to a better exposure down there. Contrast, as you can see here, is just going to kind of push that. Darks go darker, lights go lighter. I'll normally just leave the contrast alone because it does both at the same time, lights and darks. It's better here with your shadows and your highlights and your whites and your blacks. So here's our highlights. Notice now if I'm adjusting this, I'm getting a change up in here. I'm not seeing anything happen down there, so I'm doing just the light range. And then get that so it's not too overexposed up there. And then on the shadows, I can lighten the shadows up without really affecting the lights that much. So this is kind of the mid-range tones in here. Mid-range towards highlights and mid-range towards shadows. And then your blacks and your whites are the very edges of your range. So I can increase or decrease the white level right there. You can see that. And same thing on the blacks. I can darken the blacks down or lighten the blacks up. What you want to do is come through here and try to keep a little bit of your darks in there, your darkest darks, and keep a little bit of your lightest whites. Lighten the shadows up a little bit. I'm just trying to get some detail down here in the shadow area. And let's adjust our highlights a little bit in here. Maybe a little bit overexposed. Just kind of looks nice for the picture. Boost my contrast just a bit. Make the image a bit more punchy looking. Check our exposure again. And I think that's getting much, much nicer than it was. If you want to see what you've been doing here, you can come down below, down here. And this button toggles the settings here. Here's our before, here's our after. I think it's much improved. Or we have different views in here. We have before and after right here, different ways of looking at that. And when you first click on that, we can get a real nice view. There's your before and here's your after. Now I'd like to see more color in here still. It's kind of lost a lot of color, especially up in here. I'm losing color up there. You see there's more color over here, left-hand side. We can get the color back in by coming down to our next section down here, clarity, vibrance, and saturation. You can first try a little bit of clarity. I'll do these from top to bottom. Just a little bit of clarity. This is going to increasing the color saturation. It also tends to sharpen things up a little bit. Vibrance is going to come in and add in more colors, but not in your bright areas or your dark areas. It's going to be adding in color towards your mid ranges. And then saturation adds in or removes color over the whole range. So saturation will give you a color boost or remove color for the whole range of your image, whereas the vibrance is really going to be doing mostly in the mid-tone ranges on your image. And I think vibrance is normally the better way to go. It's more subtle. Then it's just a matter of coming in and tweaking these, balancing them out, and try to get a real nice look. Okay, once you're happy with all of this, this is your basic section. Close that down. We can go ahead now and switch back to our regular setting here. Just kind of cycle through those. There we go. Detail is going to allow you to sharpen your image and try some noise reduction and color noise reduction. Frequently when you're working at the very edges in here of your range, like right down here, you may get some color noise happening. And you can try to remove some of that. Noise reduction is going to be a blurring tool. It's very subtle, kind of hard to see, but be aware that you may lose some detail if you put in too much noise reduction. Sharpening is going to increase the amount of noise in your picture. And what it does is it increases the contrast around pixel boundaries. Now, these little arrows, right-hand side, these open these sections up and give you a bit more controls for each of these sections. Same thing for noise reduction. You can adjust the detail and the contrast in here. Same thing for color noise reduction. You have some adjustments. Most of the time, you can leave those settings at their default settings and you'll be just fine. Calibration down here really is only useful if you want to convert your Camera Raw image to be compatible with earlier versions of Camera Raw. In most cases, you want that at the current version, so you can pretty much leave the calibration setting alone. Now, there are more things you can do in here with Camera Raw. Let's go over here, right-hand side. We have this little button here. This is the crop button. You can use this to crop in on your image. And if you have red eye in your image, if somebody has red eye, you can use this to take care of the red eye. And we've already seen this little option right down here, reset to open, reset to default, or apply previous settings. We have those options as well. So go back up here to the edit setting. Now above this, we have preferences in here. There's not much on preferences. You can choose your default settings, either Adobe or Camera. I find that Adobe is usually the better way to go. On the digital negative file, your DNG files, you can decide how you want to have all of these adjustments saved. They're saved in an XMP file, and you either can embed that XMP information in your digital negative, or you can have that in a separate file next to your image. Again, it depends upon how you want to do that. That's a personal preference. And you can choose to update the JPEG for best quality. Set this at full size. There's a compact layout that just hides some of your options, so I never do that. The show rich tooltips, we saw those where I was hovering over a section and a little box popped up with a little bit of information. That's just your rich tooltips. Film strip is if you have more than one image open at the same time, you'll see a little film strip down below. You can choose where that's sitting, either horizontal or vertical. And on zoom and pan, you can choose what the default image clicks to. And if you want to, you can use the Lightroom style zoom and pan. If you're used to using Lightroom, it just may make things a bit more comfortable for you. And you can use the legacy undo shortcuts. I always just use Control Z and that's just fine. So again, not really that much in here, and you can ignore that if you want to, and you should be just fine. Now, once you get to this stage where you're happy with this, I recommend doing two things. First, I'll just make sure our depth here is set at 16 bits per channel. Let's go ahead, we'll go back to that one again. And then go over here, let's save this out as a DNG file. You can give it additional options in here if you want to add more detail, serial numbers, dates, and times, and so forth. I'll leave this at the default. You choose your file extension, either upper or lowercase. I'll leave it at lowercase. Leave all this the same. Again, here's a JPEG option, full size or medium size. I'll leave it at medium size. You can embed the original RAW file if you want to in the DNG, but this is going to make the file size much, much larger. I'd recommend just leaving that out. You'll still have your original file there, so you can always go back to that if you need to. Choose Save. That's now been saved, but it's on my hard drive in the location that this was sitting. It's not over in Photoshop Elements. Let's see, we wanted to get this into Elements and use some of the Elements tools. For that, we then come down here and click on Open. If you don't want to open, you can just choose Done and then save this at this setting. This is going to save this with the XMP information. When you open it up next time, it will open up here with the same settings. That would be the Done option. And we never actually touch Photoshop Elements. If you want Photoshop Elements, come down here, click on Open. It converts this over into a Photoshop Elements file. It still says ARW up here, but it's not actually an ARW file any longer. And now that it's here, we do have all of our standard Elements editing tools. So you can go crazy on this, use your filters, whatever you feel like doing, and take this even further. This will automatically save out as a different file type. Go up here to File and choose Save. And notice how it is saving it as a Photoshop file, PSD file. That's the default for Adobe's Photoshop and also for Photoshop Elements. So even though it is saying ARW up here, in reality, it's going to be a Photoshop file. If you want to learn a lot more about how to work with Photoshop Elements 2025, I have a whole training course for this. I'll put a link for that at the top of the description. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button. I really appreciate that. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already done so, and I'll see you next time.